They killed my prize-winning horse while trying to steal my land. Now, they're about to learn why you never mess with a third-generation farmer. Living on Green Meadow Farm wasn't just my job, it was my entire life. For 3 generations, my family had turned these 20 acres into a special place where animals found love and care. My grandfather started it, my father made it better, and now it was my turn to keep our family dream alive. Every morning, I would wake up at sunrise to the happy sounds of our animals. We had 12 rescue horses, including Thunder, our gentle giant who helped teach kids how to ride. Our 30 dairy cows provided milk for local families, and the sheep kept our grass perfectly trimmed. The chicken coop was always busy with fresh eggs, and we even had 3 friendly goats who became local celebrities for their funny antics. People loved visiting our farm. Families would come on weekends to pet the animals, and schools often brought children for educational trips. We were known as the place where hurt or abandoned animals could find a new home. Last year, we saved a blind horse named Star, and now she was healthy and helping other nervous animals feel safe. I worked hard to make the farm better each year. We had clean barns, fresh water systems, and safe fences around all the pastures. The animals were more than just farm animals, they were family. Each one had a name, and each one had a story. Even the local vets loved visiting because they said our animals were always happy and healthy. Life was peaceful until the big changes started happening around us. A new housing development began across the road. At first, it wasn't a problem. The new neighbors seemed nice, and many of them enjoyed seeing the animals. Some even brought their children to help feed the horses on weekends. Then Karen moved in. She became the president of the new neighborhood's HOA, and that's when things began to change. At first, she acted friendly, often stopping by to ask questions about the farm. She wanted to know about our property lines, our permits, and how long we had owned the land. I thought she was just curious, but now I know she was planning something terrible. One day, Karen brought her friends from the HOA to visit. They walked around taking pictures and making notes. They smiled and said nice things, but something felt wrong. I noticed them measuring distances and looking at our animal shelters with strange expressions. They asked about our water supply and where we stored animal food. Again, I thought they were just interested in farm life. The other neighbors warned me about Karen. They said she had caused problems in her old neighborhood and was known for making trouble. But I didn't worry too much. Our farm was here first, and we had all the right permits and paperwork. We followed every rule about keeping animals and maintaining the property. Life went on as usual for a while. We hosted our regular weekend visits, helped sick animals get better, and kept the farm running smoothly. The summer was good to us that year. The grass grew tall in the pastures, the apple trees were full of fruit, and all our animals were healthy. Even Star, our blind horse, had learned to run in her field with confidence. I remember the last peaceful Sunday on the farm. Children were riding ponies in the training area, families were having picnics near the barn, and our animals were enjoying the warm sunshine. Karen drove past slowly in her expensive car, but I didn't think much about it. I was too busy helping a young girl brush Thunder's mane while her parents took pictures. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The way Karen watched our farm, the strange cars that drove by taking photos, and the sudden questions from the HOA about our animals. But I was busy with farm life, caring for our animals, and helping our community. I had no idea that Monday morning would change everything, and that our peaceful farm was about to face its biggest fight ever. That night, I went to bed listening to the quiet sounds of the farm, horses softly moving in their stalls, owls calling from the old oak trees, and the gentle breeze rustling through the fields. It was the last peaceful night before the storm that would test everything we had built over 3 generations. The peace shattered early Monday morning with the roar of heavy machinery. I rushed outside in my pajamas to find 3 large bulldozers parked at the edge of my property. Karen stood there in her designer suit, holding a clipboard and wearing a smug smile that made my blood boil. "We're here to clear this section for the neighborhood expansion," she announced, waving a stack of papers. "The HOA has decided your animal shelters violate our community standards." Her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. These shelters housed rescued animals, each with their own story of survival. The first letter from the HOA had arrived just 2 weeks earlier. It was filled with ridiculous demands: no animal sounds before 9 a.m., restrictions on the number of animals we could keep, and rules about where we could build shelters. I had thrown it in the trash, knowing they had no authority over my property. But Karen was persistent. Every day brought new threats. She claimed our farm smell was disturbing the peace and that our animals were decreasing property values. The HOA started issuing daily fines: $500 for unapproved fencing, $1,000 for excessive animal noise, $2,000 for aesthetic violations. The numbers were completely made up. Strange things started happening around the farm. One morning, I found our main gate mysteriously unlocked. Another day, 2 sheep escaped through a hole in the fence that hadn't been there the night before. Security cameras caught people in HOA jackets walking around our property at night, but when I reported it to the police, Karen claimed they were doing routine inspections. The threats escalated quickly. Anonymous calls to animal control reported fake violations. Each time inspectors came, they found our farm exceeding all care standards, but the calls kept coming. Someone spread rumors in the community that we were mistreating our animals. Longtime visitors started asking uncomfortable questions. Then came the property documents. Karen presented papers claiming our farm was actually built on land that belonged to the housing development. The documents looked official, with stamps and signatures, but something felt wrong. When I looked closer, I noticed my father's signature on a paper dated 3 years after his death. Other HOA board members started making uninvited visits to the farm. They took photos, measured distances, and made notes while ignoring my requests to leave. They claimed they weren't documenting violations, but refused to show any official permits or authorization for their actions. Our security cameras caught more suspicious activities. Late at night, people tampered with our fences and water supply. Feed bags were found slashed open, and someone cut power to our barn's security lights. Each time I reported these incidents, Karen responded with more violation notices and threats of legal action. The night before the bulldozer incident, I received an urgent message from a friendly neighbor. She warned me that she had overheard Karen in a board meeting, planning something big for the next day. I stayed up late, checking on all the animals and reinforcing the fences, but I never imagined they would go this far. As I stood there watching the bulldozers, my mind raced through options. The police would take time to arrive. Animal control wouldn't have jurisdiction. My lawyer wasn't answering his phone. I felt completely alone, watching Karen prepare to destroy everything my family had built. But then I remembered something: my grandfather's old box of farm documents, safely stored in the barn's office. Among those yellowed papers was proof of our property boundaries, original deeds, and generations of legitimate permits. If Karen wanted a legal battle, I had 3 generations of documentation to fight back with. Thunder, our gentlest horse, whinnied nervously from his stall. Star, our blind rescue, paced anxiously in her pen. The other animals sensed the tension, their distress calls filling the morning air. Looking at their scared faces, I knew I couldn't let Karen win. This wasn't just about property rights anymore. It was about protecting the innocent animals who depended on us. The sound of the first bulldozer starting up echoed across the farm. Karen's smile grew wider as she watched me standing there in my pajamas, probably thinking she had won. But she didn't know what was coming. She had no idea that her attempt to destroy our farm would lead to her own destruction. That morning turned into a nightmare as the bulldozers charged forward. The first machine crashed through our wooden fence like it was made of matchsticks. Our newest animal shelter, built just last month for winter protection, crumbled under the metal tracks. The sound of splintering would mixed with terrified animal cries. Thunder, our strongest horse, broke through his stall in panic. He ran straight toward the danger, trying to protect his home. Star, our blind mare, started spinning in circles, confused by the chaos. The sheep huddled together in the far corner, bleeding in fear. Our farm dogs barked frantically, trying to herd the scared animals to safety. "Stop!" I screamed, running toward the bulldozers. "There are animals in here." But Karen just smiled and pointed to her papers. The operators kept going, destroying everything in their path. One machine came dangerously close to the barn where we kept our sick animals. The old building shook with each pass of the bulldozer. I called 911 with shaking hands. They're destroying my farm. There are animals in danger. While waiting for help, I started leading animals away from the destruction. Other neighbors heard the commotion and came running. Together, we created a human chain to protect the remaining shelters. The local news van arrived before the police. Cameras rolled as Karen tried to defend her actions, waving her fake documents. "This is legal HOA business," she kept saying, but her voice shook when she saw herself being recorded. The reporter looked shocked as she filmed the destruction and the terrified animals. When the police finally arrived, it was like a scene from a movie. 3 patrol cars came screaming down our driveway, lights flashing. Officers jumped out, ordering the bulldozer operators to stop immediately. Karen started yelling about HOA rights and property values, but the police weren't listening. The worst damage was already done. 4 animal shelters were completely destroyed. Our main fence had huge gaps. The water system was crushed, leaving pipes spurting water everywhere. But the real tragedy was the animals. Though none were killed, many were injured in their panic to escape. The local vet arrived and set up an emergency treatment area. 3 sheep needed stitches from cutting themselves on broken fencing. Star, our blind horse, had scraped her side badly while running scared. Even Brave Thunder had cuts on his legs from breaking through his stall. News cameras captured everything: the destruction, the injured animals, Karen's angry outbursts, and the community coming together to help. People brought trailers to move animals to safety. Others showed up with water tanks since our system was destroyed. Local farmers offered temporary shelter for our displaced animals. The police took statements from everyone. When they saw Karen's documents, their faces changed. One officer made a quick call, and within an hour, a detective arrived. He took one look at the papers and pulled Karen aside. We could hear her voice getting higher and more panicked as he asked questions. By afternoon, the full extent of damage was clear. Besides the physical destruction, our animals were traumatized. The usually friendly horses now spooked at loud noises. The sheep wouldn't leave their huddled group. Even our confident farm dogs stayed close to the house, growling at strange sounds. Community support poured in. A local hardware store sent supplies to build temporary shelters. Veterinary students volunteered to help monitor the animals overnight. Neighbors brought food for everyone working to clean up the mess. Local farmers formed security patrols to watch our property. The media coverage spread quickly. By evening, our story was on every local channel. Reporters interviewed shocked neighbors who described Karen's history of harassment. Animal rights groups arrived, documenting the damage and offering support. Social media exploded with photos and videos of the destruction. That night, as I checked on the animals one last time, I found Thunder standing guard at the broken fence line. Despite his injuries, he stayed there all night, watching over the other animals. Star had calmed down but wouldn't leave her temporary pen. The sheep finally settled in a makeshift shelter, huddled together for comfort. Looking at my injured animals and destroyed farm, I felt a deep anger replace my initial shock. Karen hadn't just attacked property, she had hurt innocent animals and tried to destroy a place of healing and rescue. As I watched the security teams patrol our borders, I knew this fight was far from over. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, investigators, and more battles, but tonight we focused on one thing: making sure our animals felt safe again. The legal battle that followed was bigger than anyone expected. My lawyer arrived early the next morning, but he wasn't alone. He brought a whole team: real estate experts, animal welfare lawyers, and fraud investigators. One look at Karen's forged documents, and they knew they had a serious case. The evidence against Karen and the HOA started piling up fast. The property documents weren't just forged, they were part of a huge scam. Karen had been taking HOA money for fake projects, using it to bribe officials, and trying to steal land from other neighbors too. Her plan was to force out local farmers and sell the land to developers at huge profits. During the investigation, more shocking details came out. Karen's HOA board had stolen over $500,000 from homeowners. They charged fake fees, created false violation notices, and pocketed the money. The bulldozer company admitted Karen had lied to them, claiming she had legal permits to clear the land. The community's support grew stronger every day. Neighbors shared security camera footage showing HOA members sneaking around our property at night. Former HOA board members came forward, telling stories about Karen's threats and illegal plans. Local business owners revealed how she had tried to extort money from them too. The court hearing was intense. Karen's lawyer tried, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, but the evidence was too strong. When the prosecutor showed videos of the bulldozers destroying our animal shelters, people in the courtroom gasped. Photos of our injured animals sealed Karen's fate. The judge's decision was clear and harsh. Karen was found guilty of fraud, animal endangerment, property destruction, and corruption. She got 5 years in prison and had to pay back everything she stole. The other HOA board members faced similar charges. Their perfect little scheme fell apart completely. But the best part wasn't seeing Karen led away in handcuffs, it was rebuilding our farm even better than before. The insurance money and court settlement helped us create stronger shelters and better security systems. We installed cameras everywhere and built a high-tech fence around the entire property. The animals slowly recovered too. Thunder's cuts healed, leaving him more protective of the other animals than ever. Star regained her confidence with help from gentle volunteers. The sheep finally started grazing in open fields again. Even our nervous farm dogs returned to their happy, playful selves. New laws came from our case. The city created strict rules about HOA powers and stronger protections for farm properties. They set up a special unit to investigate HOA fraud. Our farm became an example of why these laws were needed, and local officials often brought visitors to see our rebuilt sanctuary. The best change was in our community. Instead of fighting over property values and rules, neighbors worked together. The housing development created a new HOA, but this time with honest leaders who supported local farms. They even started a program bringing kids to learn about animal care at our farm. Today, Green Meadow Farm is stronger than ever. We have more animals, better facilities, and countless supporters. Every new rescue animal finds a safe home here, protected by our community and the laws created after Karen's scheme failed. Thunder still guards the fence line sometimes, but now he's watching over a sanctuary that nobody can threaten. The sign at our front gate tells our story, Green Meadow Farm, where animals find peace and justice prevailed. Below it, we added something special, protected by community, defended by law. It's not just a sign, it's a promise that what happened here will never happen again. Karen's HOA nightmare taught us all something important. When good people stand together, bullies can't win. Our farm isn't just a place for animal rescue anymore. It's proof that fighting for what's right is always worth it, no matter how powerful your opponent seems. As I watch the sunset over our peaceful farm each evening, with Thunder grazing nearby and Star leading the other horses to their barn, I think about how close we came to losing it all. But we didn't just save the farm, we made it a symbol of hope. Now every animal that finds shelter here, every child who learns to care for them, and every visitor who hears our story knows that sometimes the biggest victories come from the hardest fights.